Okay, so in this video we are going to talk about the very basics of information security, or we can say the basics of cryptography, and then we would lead our discussion eventually to the actual algorithms that are implemented in order to solve the problems that we encounter, or rather the criteria that fulfill the information security, right? So I will start off with a small scenario. So let's imagine there are two people, they are friends, Alice and Bob, and Alice is planning to write a letter to Bob. Okay, so we can imagine this is happening some 15-20 years ago, where there were not a lot of means of communications as we have today. Okay, so what Alice decides, she writes something on a piece of paper, and she wants this to be delivered to Bob as soon as possible. Okay, but the problem is she is busy for the day. So what she decides, she calls her friend Celine and asks her if she can deliver the letter to Bob. So then what Celine does is she agrees, and then she takes this letter and she reads the letter and then decides to play some prank with these guys. Okay, so she modifies the content of the letter and gives this letter to Bob. Okay, so now when Bob reads this letter, he is obviously angry at Alice, and then they both get into small fight. There is some misunderstanding, but eventually, Celine steps in and she tells the truth that it was her who was at the fault, right? Now, this might seem like a very simple situation, that it's all happening within the friends and eventually it gets resolved, right? But the concept here, or the idea here, is very important, and it can be a very good stepping stone to understand the basics of information security, right? So what I would like you to do is maybe pause this video for a while and think through this situation step by step. Okay, so what we would do is we would identify at each stage what was it that went wrong. Okay, so let's go one by one. So this is the first step, where Alice decides to write something for Bob. Okay, so far so good, but the moment she decides to offload this task to Celine, this is where something went wrong in this scenario, right? Although she was her friend, she should have trusted her, and she trusted her, but Celine was someone who broke her trust, right? So this is the first point of something going wrong. Okay, now in the second case, what Celine did, Celine actually opened that letter and also tried to modify it, right? So as a good friend, she should not have read that is something between the two friends. She should have directly delivered the letter, right? But she decides to read it and she also modifies the content of the letter. Now at the last point, where Bob receives this letter, he is angry at Alice, because for the right reasons, right? Because he thinks that whatever is written, that is coming from Alice, because he does not know that there is someone who has modified it on the way. Correct? So now there are three problems in this situation, and these three are actually the very fundamentals of the information security, right? So there are technical terms for it. So the first thing is called as confidentiality. Okay, so now this term, you might have heard of this before. So the term itself has the word confidence in it, right? So what it means is, we are confident that the communication channel, right, in this case Celine, is trustworthy, right? So Alice is sure that whatever the information she wants to transmit, she wants to share, is safe, right? Is in safe hands, and it won't be read or it won't be misused. So that is about confidentiality. In general, what does it mean? That whenever you are trying to communicate, when you are trying to send some data across, you should be confident enough that the personal or the sensitive information is kept safe. Now the second point, it's called as integrity. So what does integrity mean in general? In general, it means we are talking about something that is in its proper shape, right? It's not broken. So in this case, we are talking about the integrity of information. So in this case, what happened is, the information was in some form and it was altered by someone else, right? So the integrity of message is no longer intact. So that is the problem of integrity. And in case of communication systems or information transfer systems, what it means to us is that whatever data we are trying to transmit, it should reach to the receiver in its original form, right? It should not be altered on the way. Correct? So first point was about it should not be stolen. Second point was about it should not be altered on the way, right? It should not be stolen, or maybe you can say it should not be read by someone, and it should not be misused, right? The third point is known as authenticity. Even this is a very common term. So when we say authentic, we are talking about the source of information, right? So when we hear some news, right, and it sounds little outlandish, right? It does not seem to be true. So what is the first question that we ask? Is this information authentic, right? Is the source authentic? Who is the reporter? Who is the reporting agency? And things like that. So in case of information transfer, authenticity refers to the fact that whoever is claiming to be the author of this information is actually the author of that information, right? So now these are the three building blocks, or I would say three essential elements to be in place, that we require to be in place, so that we can claim that a particular system, a communication system, is secure enough. Okay, so these three are the conditions, and you can also say these three are the challenges in information security, right? So to tackle these challenges, to solve these problems, there is a field in computer science which is called as cryptography, right? Which is what our whole series is going to be about, correct? So the word cryptography is made up of two words, crypto and graphy. So crypto means to write, something related to writing, and graphy means crypto means something which is hidden, and graphy means writing, right? So it literally translates to hidden writing, right? So you don't want somebody to look at it, right, in the traditional sense, and that is what we try to do today as well, correct? So for now we won't be diving into the details of all the algorithms. So for now what we can think of, what we can keep in mind is these are the three problems, or these are the three essential elements which would be solved using cryptographic principles. Okay, so we will talk about all the algorithms and which are the algorithms which solve which of these problems and things like that in the coming sessions, right? So